Hi, and now welcome to week 5. We're going to start looking at mood disorders. And mood disorders are disturbances in the mood, and they are serious enough to impair daily function. So unlike just being a little bit of a swing of happy and sad, these affect the daily function, getting to work, affecting interpersonal dynamics, and that kind of thing. So it's not like just being a little bit of a bad mood. It's much more serious than that. Then there are various types or kinds of mood disorders, and they include type 1 and type 2 of mood disorders. Then they include depressive disorders such as major depression, persistent depressive disorder, and it also includes disorders with mood swings, being type 2, such as bipolar and cyclothymic disorders. Now, one of the things that's probably really useful with this chapter, and with all the other chapters too, and I should have pointed this out to you sooner, is that consider reading those little yellow highlighted boxes in your textbook, as they offer specific examples of particular disorders on the chapters that we're on, and maybe even looking at the treatment elements about those particular disorders. And you may find them very helpful in understanding some of the disorders a little better, because they are from research notes, they are from psychiatrist notes, given with permission and names changed to protect clients. And you may find those really useful. So the first video I'm going to do right now, this is going to be looking at types of mood disorders. The second video will be looking at the theoretical perspectives of mood disorders. The third video will look at treatment for mood disorders and also look at the issue of suicide. Okay, so good luck. Here we are in week 5. Keep up the good work. When we think about, what are mood disorders, we can sort of consider mood disorders are disturbances in mood that are serious enough to impair our daily function, as I mentioned in the introduction. And mood disorders are the type of disorders characterized by disturbances in mood. And it's really important because these are the kinds of things that aren't just the everyday kind of mood swings that we might have. That these are more focused on the things that interrupt and disrupt us from being able to do with the things that we normally do. They interfere. And they can take various forms, including depressive unipolar disorders such as major depression, dysrhythmic disorder, and disorders involving mood swings such as bipolar disorder and cyclothymic disorders. And we're going to look into more depth into these to sort of see what the similarities and or the differences are. And we're going to begin with is major depressive disorder. And with major depressive disorder, people with this disorder experience profound changes in mood that impair their ability to function. Severe mood disorders are characterized by the occurrences of major depressive episodes in the absence of a history of manic episodes. And we'll look at mania a little bit later. And so rather than it being an up and a down of severe swings of manic and depression, which would be bipolar, it has just these episodes of depression without any history of any mania. You may elevate to what would be considered this normal range. There are many associated features of major depression, including depressed mood, changes in appetite, difficulty sleeping, reduced sense of pleasure in formerly enjoyable activities, feelings of fatigue or loss of energy, loss of worthlessness, or sense of worthlessness, excessive or misplaced guilt, difficulties concentrating, or thinking clearly, or making even any decisions, repeated thoughts of death or suicide, or even attempts of suicide, or even psychotic behavior like hallucinations and delusions. And so you'll see in table 4.2 and 4.3 on page 142 and 3 a breakdown of what that might look like as far as the DSM-5. Now, if we continue on with major depressive disorder, although changes in mood and responses in response to the ups and downs of everyday life might be quite normal, persistent or severe changes in mood cycles of extreme elation and depression may suggest the presence of a mood disorder. Now in Canada, the depressive disorders are most common in adolescence and early adulthood, 15 to 14 years or 24 years of age. Throughout adolescence and adulthood, 15 to 64 years of age, women tend to have a higher prevalence of depressive disorder than what men do. Older adults, 65 and older, have the lowest prevalence of depressive disorder, with no significant difference between men and women. Now what you're seeing on the right there is a mood thermometer to show the differences between severe mania and severe depression. They're on the extreme ends of a continuum. And there is a range of normal or more balanced mood in the middle, bordering on hypomania and mild to moderate depression. And so it's important to bear in mind that most of us, a vast majority of us, fall within that normal, balanced mood with some degree to the mild and moderate depression or to hypomania. It's a much smaller number that falls into the severe on either end of that continuum. Now, the major depressive disorder, there are risks for depression. Twice as many women as men seem to be affected by this disorder. But the reasons for the gender differences really aren't very clear. Depression can begin or reoccur at any age, but the risk of initial onset of depression is age-related. Major depression has been increasing worldwide. So the major risk factors are age, socioeconomic status, so certainly the conditions by which you find yourself living in and the stressors associated with living in a lower income can have an impact on depression. Women, of course, being twice as likely to develop as men, and marital status can have an impact on depression. Now, that doesn't mean whether or not you're married, although it can. It also means the quality of your relationship can have an impact on depression. Now, an alternative form, less severe, but it's nonetheless an impact on everyday life, is what's known as seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as SAD. It affects women more than men. It's most common among young adults, possibly occurs in children, but it's not commonly as young as adults. So some of the features include fatigue, excessive sleep, cravings for carbohydrates, weight gain. And some of the treatment associated with this, in fact, in terms of theories, it certainly occurs in more people in northern latitudes, where the winter affects people's moods quite a bit more because of the lack of daylight. Now, another form of depression, if you will, falls in the same category of mood disorders, is that of postpartum depression. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder, as it is also known, is an addition to the new DSM-5, and it's characterized by persistent and severe mood changes that revolve around a woman's menstrual cycle. And so it's very closely related to hormones and hormone imbalance. Persistent depressive disorder is a form of chronic depression that is milder than major depression and seems to follow a chronic course of development that often begins in childhood or adolescence, but may nonetheless be associated with impaired functioning in a social and occupational roles. Now, when it talks about chronic, it really just, what it means is, rather than say you've fallen down and from your bike and you've been moving along and you've really scraped yourself, that's acute. That is, it happens quickly and short term. Chronic means that it's been progressively developing over a long period of time. And so when we talk about persistent depressive disorder, it's likely a long established developing process, as opposed to something that's happened sudden based on an event, a loss of a loved one or a divorce. Now, as was mentioned, that some mood disorders are a type 2, if you will, known as bipolar. This disorder is characterized by mood swings between states of extreme elation, as was mentioned earlier, mania, and severe depression. It's formerly known as manic depression, but it's now more known as bipolar. There are two general types of bipolar disorders. There's bipolar 1 disorder and bipolar 2 disorder. In bipolar 1 disorder is identified by the occurrence of one or more manic episodes, which generally, but not necessarily, occur in persons who have experienced major depressive state. In bipolar II disorder, depressive episodes occur along with hypomanic episodes, but without the occurrence of full-blown manic episodes. When we think in terms of manic episodes are characterized by sudden elation or expansion of mood and a sense of self-importance, feelings of almost boundless energy, hyperactivity, and extreme social ability, which often takes a demanding and overbearing form. People in manic episodes tend to exhibit pressured and rapid speech, and a rapid flight of ideas, and decreased need for sleep. So when we think in terms of pressured speech, it's the outpouring of speech in which words seem to surge urgently for expression as in a manic state. And then when we think about rapid flight of ideas, it's a characteristic of manic behavior involving rapid speech and changes of topics quickly. So you see the table 4.4 on page 151 to sort of give you an idea of the DSM-5's list of criteria. And then lastly is a cyclothymic disorder. Now, this disorder is a mood disorder characterized by chronic patterns of mild mood swings between depression and mania that are not sufficient severity to be classified as bipolar disorder. So if you will, it's kind of like a slightly lesser version of bipolar. Hypomania, or hypo meaning less than, therefore hypomania is mania that is less than that of a bipolar. Okay, there's an overview of the types. Now again, as I mentioned in the introduction, you'll find some examples in your textbook that look at the examples more clearly and also look at some of the issues around with some case study examples, and I'd really encourage you to pay attention to that. You may find it extremely helpful. All right, good luck, and let's get on to part 2 and then part 3. Thanks very much. Bye now.